Welcome back to the desk. As the calendar turns to February, there's still no light at the end of the tunnel regarding the MLB's lockout. And here to break down all the news in the CBA negotiations on the hot stove, we have Anthony, Andrew B, Jimmy, and Andrew G. Jimmy, we're going to go to you first. Rob Manfred's had some stuff to say about the lockout. He thinks that he says he doesn't want games to be lost. I think it's going to happen, but what did he say? Because that man's all over the place, Jimmy, to be honest with you.
I mean, we can only hope for an MLB season at this point. But let's take a quick look at Rob Manfred's statement here about the MLB lockout. You know, the main message we want to get across is that he pays attention. I see missing games as a disastrous outcome for this industry, and we're committed to making an agreement and an effort to avoid that. They got the deal for the universal DH. That's something that's been in the MLB desires for a number of years now. Not really a major accomplishment for me, but spring training can come or go. I need the regular season start on time.
Anthony?
Yeah, so, Samory, I made a bet not too long ago that said if the regular season starts in April, I will grow a mustache, which would be a nightmare situation for me. So I kind of need, as much as I want the season to start on time, that would be kind of an issue.
You don't want the mustache?
I do not want the mustache. You do not want to see me with the mustache. But I mean, I'm kind of surprised. I was really expecting Manfred to come out and almost guarantee a delayed start to the season. He came out sounding optimistic. You know, he said that spring training is going to start on time. You know, they agreed on some things, including like a draft lottery, universal designated hitter, you know, some things like that, which is kind of interesting. So I'm kind of interested to see where things go, but they're going to make it a proposal tomorrow, the owners. And if that proposal hits, we should get baseball soon.
Yeah, hopefully. Andrew G?
I think tomorrow is going to be the last day of the lockout. I think they are going to come to an agreement.
Sir.
I think they will. Manfred, yesterday was speaking. He seemed very confident in it. They need to do something. They need to get it done. The fans are getting worried, and the universal DH is a big move for everyone in the NL.
Andrew
I
B?
kind of agree with Gavin here. I think they're going to get a deal done. I think they kind of have to. You can't be delaying this any longer. At some point, the season's going to start to get delayed. He said he's confident in the proposal they have for tomorrow, so let's cross our fingers, man.
Yes, please, let's cross our fingers. Things wouldn't be the same in the spring or the summer without baseball. And hopefully if a lockout does happen, by the summer we should have baseball, hopefully. I hope we get 162 games.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Now, the New York Yankees, they did not make any moves before the lockout, excuse me, but they have been recently linked to Freddie Freeman, one of the best players in Atlanta Brave history, if we want to be honest. So, Andrew Gavin, do we think that Freddie Freeman is a great acquisition for the Yankees if he chose to go there?
I think it's a great acquisition. As we take a look here at his stats from last year, he had 160 games he played, 300 batting average, and 31 home runs. He's a gold glover. You'll have him all year. And if we don't get him, we have Rizzo, we have Voit as a safety net. We don't want Voit, but we still can easily get him with the money we have.
Andrew B?
See, I actually am the opposite. I don't think the Yankees should get Freddie Freeman. I think that Luke Voit, they're fine with Luke Voit at first base. I think shortstop's easily the biggest need on the Yankees market. I don't think they should go throw money at Freddie Freeman. He's 32. You know, he's got to be reaching the end of his prime at some point. I don't know. I don't think it's a great signing.
So, Jimmy, Yankees do have a couple of first basemen. Anthony Rizzo's still a free agent, but I think he said he wanted to be in New York. You saw Luke Voit, he's been hurt recently. Do you think getting Freeman would stop the Yankees from getting somebody else like Carlos Correa, maybe Trevor Story, somebody like that?
Well, personally, I would like the Yankees to go after a shortstop like a Trevor Story, Carlos Correa, if the money is there. You don't want to overpay too much, but then again, it's not my money. So, but what I would like to see happen is what was reported over the offseason and didn't exactly go through. Matt Olson, been in trade talks for a long time now. You can maybe give up a Luis Heel. You can give up Luke Voit in the trade and maybe another prospect, something like that. If you can bring in a Matt Olson, he brings a lot of the same things Freeman does. A lot of power, and he does play well in the field.
And he is younger. That's one thing about Matt Olson. Anthony, close us out.
So yeah, I'm kind of a mix. You know, I like Olson a lot. I've been big on Olson for a while. You know, I'm always a big fan of him. He's a lot younger. He wouldn't cost any money. But Freeman, he's a lot more of a sure thing, I would say. You know, he's been better for a lot longer. But if you get Olson, you get the ability to sign Correa. So I'm kind of torn. Either way, I think the Yankees are going to make a big move following the lockout, whether that be Correa, a Story, a Olson, a Freeman. I think they're going to get one of those four guys. We'll just have to see when the lockout ends.
We will have to see when the lockout ends. But before the lockout ended, the other team in New York made some amazing moves. I know every Met fan's so happy that finally they can think they're in contention. We have to see what happens when they actually play, Anthony. Well, we're going to go to you first. So many different moves. Max Scherzer with, $43 million a year for 3 years? That's amazing. That's an amazing deal. Starling Marte and many more. Anthony, what are your expectations for the Mets this season?
Yeah, we're actually going to take a look at the offseason acquisitions for these New York Metropolitans, the amazing acquisitions, I like to call them. Max Scherzer, Eduardo Escobar, Mark Canha, and Starling Marte headlining it, and a nice little cheap $254.5 million dished out by Steve Cohen.
He said he was going to spend money when he had the chance.
Hey, man, you got to respect the hustle. But I'm a big proponent of these moves. I think they're the best team in the East now. I think they're better than Atlanta. They're obviously better than Washington, Philly, and Atlanta and Miami. I think this team needs to get to the NLDS. They don't need to win a championship this year. They weren't that great last year, but they need to at least make it to the divisional series for this to be a success.
Jimmy?
Well, Syndergaard, Steven Matz, they kind of turned their nose to Steve Cohen. Steve Cohen reached deep in his pocket and said, okay, look what I could have given you. So, but Mets fan bases, this is going to be great for baseball. They've been suffering for a long time. Granted, one of the most delusional fan bases, but I digress.
You're not wrong.
It's good for baseball if they're in contention. Max Scherzer will bring a lot of eyes. You pair him up with DeGrom. The universal DH will be really helpful with them for Pete Alonso, Dom Smith. So
especially Dom Smith.
I looks to be a dangerous lineup, but until they can show consistency winning with Buck Showalter, if the Braves can get Freddie Freeman, it's still their division.
Yeah, I think Mets got very high expectations this year. Alone, just having Scherzer and DeGrom already gives them high expectations. Lindor, he started to improve last year as the season went on. We see Pete Alonso, he's one of the best hitters in the AL or the NL. I think they got to win at least 90 to 95 games. I think they got to make a World Series push.
I agree with you. I do think they have to make a World Series push for all the stuff that people's been talking about and all the Met fans talking bad about the Yankees. I think they have to make the World Series with all the stuff they've been talking. Andrew G, close us out.
You know what? Steve Cohen said in the first 5 years they'll get a championship, and he put his money where his mouth is, and he's continuing that. They can upgrade the bullpen a little bit. They can get Kenley Jansen, and I really think this is an ALCS kind of year, more than the division series. And I really think that he put his promise to the test, and he's going to keep it.
This would be very interesting. So, still a lot of free agents out there, gentlemen. But the shortstop position is one of the most premier positions in the MLB now. And Andrew B, we're going to go to you. We saw guys like Corey Seager, Javi Baez. Still, they got signed massive contracts. Still guys out there like Carlos Correa and Trevor Story. They're still in the open market. And, I don't understand. Who do you think is going to sign a deal first between these two?
Well, I'm not sure, but let's take a look at the stats. I mean, these are two of the premier shortstops in the league, Carlos Correa and Trevor Story. Each played over 140 games last year, batted over 250, both of them. 92 RBIs for Carlos Correa, along with 26 home runs, and 24 and 25 for Trevor Story. But I think that Carlos Correa is going to sign first. I think he's the better player. I think he's going to go to the Yankees, to be honest with you. And I think Trevor Story is going to get a little bit of a smaller deal. But I think Correa is going to sign a huge one this offseason.
Anthony?
Now, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Carlos Correa inked a deal with Scott Boras. As we know, he likes to take a while to sign his guys. So I'm keeping an eye on that as we move forward. You look at Carlos Correa, you look at Trevor Story. Story had a down year last year. He wasn't really himself. I think that could draw cheaper salary for him, maybe draw more teams to sign him, and maybe set the pace for Correa. But if Correa does sign first, depending on how much money he gets, that's going to dictate Story's market.
I agree with that. I think Carlos Correa is going to get $200+ million.
Oh, easily. I would even go $300+ million.
I don't know about 300, but I'm gonna say at least 200. Story might be in the 120s.
I think so.
Because of how he kind of digressed over the seasons.
If it wasn't for last year, he would easily get around $200 million.
I agree with you. Jimmy?
We saw the humongous contract that Corey Seager got from the Texas Rangers. Trevor Story, Carlos Correa. Trevor Story's not going to get them out, but Carlos Correa, I believe, is going to get a more annual value than a Corey Seager. Trevor Story, I believe, will be signed first. Teams like the Mariners are still in. Teams like the Rangers have still said they're not done spending. The Phillies. So I'll go with Trevor Story getting signed first simply because he's going to be more to market price.
Andrew G, closes out.
I think Correa is the better sense overall. It makes sense on both sides. Correa, we sign him. We're going to go with the tax threshold. That's fine. Hal Steinbrenner has the money. He's got to compete with Steve Cohen now. And if they make that signing, it really puts the Yankees in a great opportunity.
Well, I really, really hope that baseball season starts on time, because it'll be so fun to just talk about baseball when it's actually going here on the desk. But we like I said earlier on this blog, fingers crossed for baseball. But as hopefully, the season will take off soon, another season is coming to a close as the NFL crew will line up in a three-point stance to preview the biggest game in the world, the Super Bowl. Stick around here on WP Sports Talk.